It's straight talk with no chaser. It gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.
Welcome to the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com, an iHeart radio station. This is your host, Bria Ray Harris, and I'm so glad to be with everyone this evening. Tonight, we're going to have a really interesting conversation because there's a lot going on in Illinois that I think the average person just doesn't know. My guest is Mr. Frank Bass, owner of the Bass Group LLC. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
Fine. Thank you so much for coming out here to be with us. So before we get deep into the conversation of the Illinois madness, as I call it, because I just still can't understand some of the basic stuff that's going on, because it's almost like we've never seen things like this in, recent history, I know. Tell everyone what the Bass Group LLC does.
Okay. The Bass Group is a lobbying group based in Springfield, but we do lobbying in Springfield. We represent the Chicago Teachers Union, the Illinois Family Institute, Teamsters Local 743, Grow Your Own Teachers, Chicago Area Project, and Habilitative Services, Inc.
So, and this is something I've been screaming from the roof for a long time. You don't get people to listen to you until you have a representative speaking for you politically.
Correct.
So, in your representation of these organizations, I know you can't get into trade secrets, so to speak, but what exactly is it that you do for them in Springfield?
Well, organizations hire lobbyists to basically talk to legislators and agency directors on their behalf. So you become like the spokesperson for a certain topic or a certain issue. Like for Chicago Teachers Union, a major bill was the elected representative school board for the city of Chicago. So they hire lobbyists to go down there and try to get enough yes votes for the bill to pass, and then try to encourage the governor, whoever the governor is, to sign the legislation.
So for this, how long have you been doing this? Let's back up a little bit.
16 years.
Okay, so you've seen a whole lot of stuff come and go. In the 16 years that you've been actually representing various organizations, what have some of the more difficult fights been?
Elected representative school board.
And for those that don't understand what that is, Chicago has always had, up until this point, an appointed school board.
Correct, by the mayor.
And it was appointed by the mayor of the city of Chicago. And therefore, that person's quote unquote level of independence, or the board's level of independence, was always questionable because they were appointed and not elected by the general population.
Right, it's basically non-existent. You do what the mayor wants you to do, and that's how you vote. And the city of Chicago is the only school board that's not vocal of the district that pay the taxes.
In the whole state of Illinois?
In the whole state.
And that ought to tell you something.
In the whole state.
In the entire state. And there are a lot of school districts in Illinois.
A ton of them.
And we're the only one.
The only one.
How has that particular piece of legislation fared?
It's a political football. It passed out the House, and now, for some strange reason, the Senate wants to do neighborhood meetings to see how the neighborhood feels about having an elected representative school board, even though,
Did the neighborhood already say they wanted that?
yeah, they even voted a referendum on it,
I was
a
about to say,
non-binding.
I recall voting something about
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So this is a stall tactic. The
yeah.
hard job
Um,
as is mine. All right.
and there was a show called Schoolhouse Rock,
Yes.
and you had Mr. Bill.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
Exactly. So I asked my mom, how do you help Mr. Bill become a law? And she said there's two ways. One's, well, Mr. Bill is based on DC. So one, you have to be a congressman, or two, you become a lobbyist. Lobbyists tend to last longer
Then the
than the
Congress.
congressman. And a lot of congressmen end up becoming lobbyists after they leave.
Yes, they do.
So which one would you want? And I said lobbyist. And I was in fifth grade.
Wow.
And my family still does, have a very close relationship with the Stroger family. And my mom's best friend from the South was John Stroger's best friend. So when I was in high school at Lane Tech in '84 is when I met John Stroger and started doing political work for him
To
that
start to
whole
get
time frame.
to start to get a better understanding of
Right,
how
understanding
things go.
government and politics because they both go hand in hand, but a lot of people mix them up. It's the politics first, then policy is driven because you got to get elected first, and then
And
you
then
do
you
the
can come
policy.
and vote or propose.
Right, and so in 2000, John Stroger had an opening in his office to be a government affairs person, which is what lobbyists are called when they work for in-house or for a government or for a private company and they're not on contract. They're on salary. So I represented Cook County for 10 years. And when Pratt Winkle came in, she fired all the black folks and kept all the white folks. I'm just keeping it real. You can
That's
ask
it.
anybody black
This is the Straight No Chaser
that
show. We
worked in the
don't pull
Stroger
any.
organization.
Well, you know what? Before we go any further, I have to say this. On my day job, I am a Cook County adult probation officer, and I've met Mr. Stroger on many occasions. May he rest in peace. And he was honestly to me a nice guy. He was a nice guy that
Hmm.
looked out for his family and his community. And I'm just, I'm not benefiting from this because the man is gone. Say how sometimes, everyone looks at politicians and say, oh, they're this and they're that. Some politicians are genuinely nice, sincere people.
Oh yeah, I mean he took 12 black men like me with black kids and taught us this whole process. And he used to always tell us it's easier to go out there and raise a tax, or it's easier to go out there and lay off the people at the bottom of the totem pole. But you're here to protect the people at the bottom of the, and he just didn't care about the people at the top of the totem pole because he felt like they have their master's degrees and they can go find a job somewhere else. But that Miss Johnson, who's a single mom that's working over at Stroger Hospital, making 35,000, 40,000 a year,
Who's
and
going to stand for her?
sent her first son to college, he gonna stand for her.
That's right. And I can
So
appreciate that.
that was a valuable lesson that I still live by.
Okay. Mrs. Preckwinkle came and did her house cleaning, as they
Right.
say. What did you decide to do at that point?
Took a break from my Stroger's cousin is a city to all his campaigns. So I try to help him get more.
Okay. Was he left from here to go there?
No, well, no, he's originally from there.
Okay.
His but Todd's cousin is married to him.
Okay.
So I went down there for about 8 months, and State Representative Ken Duncan asked me to come back home. So I came back to Chicago, ran his campaign.
Now, what year was that?
2011.
Okay.
And after that was over, none of the Democratic groups that have always helped when I was in the president's office wanted to give. It's very hard for black people to get lobbying contracts. It's very easy for white folks. And a Republican-leaning company that I used to play basketball, Republican state senator, Senator Bivens, who is as conservative as you can get. Reached out to me and said, "Hey, Frank, I heard you was unemployed. Why don't you stop looking for a job and go private and start your own thing? I got one client that's willing to hire you."
Wow.
And it was a subsidiary of the the Tea Party. They paid me, and they still have me on contract to this day.
Now, I'm going to say this because, like I said, we say what we feel on the Straight No Chaser show. I'm not mad at the Tea Party. I actually have a lot of respect for the Tea Party because they tell you up front, you're going to do A, B, and C, or we're going to vote you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Black people need to be like that.
And I am so not that because what you're dealing with, they are going to get you out of office. So I may not always agree with their stances on certain things, but I agree with how they handle it because I got you in this office and you need to do what I want. And that's just it. So I don't have a problem with that. That's awesome.
I mean, and they were really, like you said, it was like, "Frank, we don't want you to lobby for anything you're not comfortable with. Just let us know what you can do
and what you
cannot do." And I was the very first black person they ever hired.
Again, not to give out trade secrets, but what was their one issue?
They wanted an amendment to the same-sex marriage law. They were not. They go off the Bible. Whatever the Bible says is how they roll. No matter what the real world wants, whatever's in the Bible is what they're going to do. And so their issue with same-sex marriage was they didn't have anything against people who are gay. They had an issue with, we just saw civil unions happen. Let's get a right kind of same-sex marriage law. And what they wanted was an amendment because some churches really didn't want to perform same-sex marriages. And they didn't want churches to put themselves in a position where if a minister said no, that they would get sued.
And for clarity, and I'm glad we're talking about this, there have been around the gay marriage issue around the country, certain entities, florists, bakeries, etc., that have been sued because they felt that their religion forbade them to engage in a homosexual marriage ceremony on any level. So they wanted to make that not a non-issue in Illinois.
Right.
Did it pass?
It passed with amendment that kind of covers it. And no one will never know if it truly protects churches until someone is sued. So no one really knows. But the language is a little different than the original same-sex marriage proposal that came out.
But no one to date has been sued in Illinois.
No, not that I know of.
No, we'd have heard about it.
Well, I know about, like, there was a floral company in the western part of the state. There was a caterer in southern Illinois that was sued. So they've been, and I think they're waiting to see what happens with those lawsuits.
And then
before anything goes further.
Okay, and then they may want to revise the language
again.
So when we're talking about revisions and language and all this for a layman. We're talking about basically not necessarily changing the law because there may not be any law to address certain things, but either changing some laws or creating some laws.
Right. What? If it's something that's already in the books, it's called an amendment to a law. If it's nothing on the books, then it's a brand new piece of legislation.
Okay, so that everybody's clear. We either have new legislation or amendment to current legislation.
Right. So, like for example, that's why sometimes I wish I was a state senator. But there, when you look at black neighborhoods and how they were impacted by the riots and never truly rebuilt.
We're talking about the riots in 1968.
1968, yes. Um, Illinois has a section in its code that addresses revitalizing um, neighborhoods based on what happened when the stock market crashed. And then it was revised again to cover troops coming home from World War II. So that's why you see like the bungalows in certain parts of the city and how they got some of the manufacturing to come to the city. And it also helped build up your Napervilles and your Oak Brooks
Surrounding suburbs.
and the surrounding suburbs and downstate. And what I felt that should be done, and since I'm not a legislator, I can't do it, and none of my clients, that's not none of their issues. But that's something like maybe the Urban League and the NAACP and some of the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce should be looking at, because you would just have to amend that language to get more state funds to come rehab those impacted neighborhoods and make it more attractive for, let's say, a company that wants to make solar panels, or a company that may want to make the turbines for the windmills for high, for clean energy, and say you can come in here into this neighborhood and open up, and you'll get maybe 100, 200 jobs created out of that. And then out of out of every one manufacturing job that's created, 4 side jobs open up, which means like a restaurant comes, a new gas station comes, maybe a new store opens up. And a lot of people don't get
the
that.
community.
That's how you spur
As
true
far as
economic
long
growth.
term.
Right.
Let me throw this out, since we're speaking about revitalization, because we're not that far from Gary, Indiana. And last week they had a meeting with their revitalization committee. And basically the former Mayor Daley is investing between this year and 2018, $9 million in the city of Gary. And when people ask why, why are you doing this? And they did the breakdown of how many properties are on the tax lien list every year, how they have 6,500 buildings that they need torn down to the tune of $100 million expenses, and nowhere to get the money, because Gary itself, although Indiana seems to be okay, Gary itself does not have a tax base to support it. So when we look at taking that thought to the west side of Chicago, which was way more damaged than the other sides of Chicago in the riots and was never, revitalized. Again, you have a tax base issue for that community, even though we all live in the city of Chicago, and you have TIF money that never seems to get to certain places, even though it's supposed to. But you do have a community that now, for 50 years, it'll be something that's not on the agenda of your clients. How do these people in that community say, okay, we want someone to fix this? How do they get to political people so that their political people perhaps can get to you?
Well, the West Side it's a real, it's a funny. Part of the reason why the West Side is because the people who live there haven't educated themselves. So, for example, I live in the 24th Ward. That's North London.
Tell people what
80%
it
of the
is.
80% of that TIF money has been ported
When you
to
say
other parts.
ported,
Well, there's a loophole in the TIF law. So let's say I have $50 million in TIF A, and I have 100 million, 125 million in TIF B. I can port, mean take, as long as we border each other. So the people who live in North Lawndale have subsidized the buildup of the West Loop. Their taxpayer money
going to a
going
different community.
toward Pilsen, where you see the UIC area, all that was built up, the North Lawndale TIFs and the Garfield Park TIFs.
Wow. Knowing that, what the North Lawndale and the West Garfield people need to do to say, okay, we want our money back. We want our TIF money back.
That's cool.
So that's just
It's still happening to this day. I don't know because I'm not at the county anymore. Yeah,
wow.
if and it's I'm a big advocate of education, and they take advantage, meaning elected officials. Some of them take advantage of the fact that I'm more concerned about how they're gonna pay bills and how they're gonna
Day-to-day
live
living,
day-to-day living, and they're not gonna get into
long-term vision.
long-term visions. But I mean, what would it do for your quality of life if TIF money was used to lure a manufacturer into an industrial corridor in Garfield Park or North Lawndale that brings 200 jobs plus 4 side jobs? That's 800 jobs on one project.
Because when I do look around the city, there are certain neighborhoods that you go, oh, they're doing this and this and this. And then you look at other neighborhoods, you're like, oh my God, this. And so you're right. If there is development, there it mushrooms.
And it builds up your property value, your net worth. If you're a homeowner, your net worth grows. So if you own a home that's worth $40,000, that's your net worth on top of whatever you make, your salary. But if you live in a community that's growing and building, let's say your house was worth $50,000 in 1990, and in 2000 it's worth 100,000, and now it's worth $300,000. Your house is paid off, and you want and clear.
But you have to have a community that sustains that.
Right. And the people in North Lawndale are fighters. The problem is that it's kind of fractured. It's not as fractured as it used to be. So they can't all come together on a consensus candidate to bidding. And plus, on top of dealing with many other things, that they can't look into that type of talk because they were, it's the OK Corral over there, but
Yeah.
it's real.
When you work today, are my children, do we have food? What might possibly happen 4 years down the road? So I understand. When we come back, we're going to talk what's on the table with these budgets. And we're going to also have our last part of the 8-part series on the Money Moment with H. Cortez on the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com, an iHeartRadio station.
Greetings, Ray and my Straight No Chaser family. It's your H. Cortez, the one and only financial health mentor to the working class, coming to you with tonight's money moment. Tonight, we're going to finish up our series, Mastery, 8 steps you need to become financially successful. All right. Step number 1, cash flow mastery. You got to master the cash that flows into your house, the cash that flows out of your house. And I'm talking about each house has a specific destination. Step number 2, set up a mini emergency fund, $2,000 to $3,000 in the event that the washer breaks down, your transmission goes out in your car, so it doesn't interrupt. And step number 3, create investing. The amount is not important as having the habit. Every time you get paid, make sure some money is going to one of your investments. Step number 4, eliminate all concerns. Got to go. Furniture stores, that debt. Now that the debt is gone, you freed up some more money to start putting $100, $200, $300 a month on K or whatever investments are. Step number 6, you want to go ahead and establish the full emergency fund. Now you need 6 months minimum, at least 6 months of your total. If it's 5, you need $30,000 in funds. So if something happens, you lose a job or something like that, you can keep rolling without batting an eye for at least 6 months. All right. Step number 7, if you haven't bought a home, now is the time to be up because you don't got no debt. All right. Or if you already have extra money to start doubling down on the mortgage to get that mortgage to disappear. Now the consumer debt is gone and the mortgage debt is gone. All right. And then step number 8, we're talking about investments, right? See, investments is on here 3 times. We created the habit. We increased investing. Now we're maximizing investment. We're talking about really the work for you. You may be looking at real estate. You may be looking at buying a Dunkin' Donuts franchise. You may be looking at doing something that's going to bring some real money and build a real legacy for your family. So those are the 8 steps to financial success. So I want you to really, really hone in on those 8 steps. If you are serious, then I want you to consider partnering with me. I'm aggressively expanding my financial education. You can have patient space where you the train where everything that you need to be successful in a financial education business and bring wealth building strategies to your community. Just text the word franchise to 314-874-6887. Let me know you heard it on the Straight No Chaser show, and we'll connect. Until I talk to you guys next week, you're checking out Rhea Ray, Straight No Chaser show. I'm H. Cortez. Get your money up because you can do it. Peace.
And that was the last of our 8-part series, but not the moment from H. Cortez, the financial advisor to the working class, Mr. Frank Bass, and we are discussing those situations in Chicago and in Illinois. He is the owner of the Bass Group, LLC, and he has had not really just 16 years. You've had like half a lifetime of experience dealing with the politics, but of Chicago, Illinois, and Atlanta.
Correct.
So let's talk about this whole situation with in Illinois, because no one, myself included, understands what's going on. Now, I remember when Pat Quinn was in office, and I'm not saying he was in the box. I'm not saying that.
Right.
And I know from what I recall that they were basically pushing budgets that didn't have funding behind it. Is that accurate?
No.
That's not accurate.
It was not fully funded.
It was not fully funded. Okay.
Correct.
So we have a $10 budget, but we only have $7 in our hand.
Correct.
All right. And we're just going to worry about that $3
Later.
All right. Now, and this is my stick at people who did not vote or who acted like it wasn't important. or who followed their passer and voted for Rauner. Rauner told everyone up front, I'm not mad at Mr. Rauner, because he said up front what he was going to do. And I don't know if the people didn't believe him or they misunderstood what he was saying or what the situation was. This was part of what he ran on.
Correct.
Was a balanced budget. Balanced meaning we're going to spend $10 because we have $10. Not we're going to spend $10, have $7, and we're going to figure out the other three later. Now, what are we, a year and a half, almost 2 years into this?
Mm-hmm. Going into year 2.
What is
DC? It's just like DC now. It's very frustrating because the governor will agree in a private room to one thing and get out in front of the public and do the exact opposite. And then you have Republican members who are scared to go against him because they do not want to get primaried.
Tell people what that means.
Primaried means I don't like what you did, so I'm going to run somebody against you, and I'm going to fund their entire program, their campaign. So let's say like Representative Ives, who's an ultra conservative member of the I think Wheaton or Elmhurst.
Okay.
And let's say she said, I'm not going to vote with the governor on this bill. Next thing you know, when Ms. Ives is up for re-election,
there's a challenge.
There's a challenger with $500,000 in the bank.
Starting out
the gate. If Ives tripped over the curb, going out, she really wants somebody who can't walk and chew gum at the same time
to handle
as your state
business.
rep.
Wow. Okay.
And this no-name person can come out the blue
and knock you off.
out.
And that explains a lot, because on the flip side, people have this similar feeling about Michael Madigan.
Correct.
And they're like, okay, why can't we get you to move? From the way it looked, because I know Ken Duncan, who you mentioned earlier, was doing what he said he felt was best for his community, which was not always in step with the Democratic Party down there. And we looked up, and he was in a street brawl almost for his job, and he ended up losing it.
Correct.
And although I had heard of the young lady whose name escapes me right now, I didn't recall her being, a politician like that.
No, she was a person who had ran for office several times before
and hadn't won.
And she was like the fifth choice because 4 other people said no.
Wow.
I guess Ken's race, Representative Duncan's race, is a perfect example of the people got your back today. The moment you trip over the curb, they don't have your back no more. Even though Ken was chairman of HIPES and fought all the state schools against raising their tuition because he was afraid of the impact on Black people. And that's record. You can look it up in Springfield in the Capitol building on those committee hearings. Ken this is speak of the wrong way have done. They don't have their money. They got some of their money, and now when some of these that have for years not for profit, have for years gotten money out of the higher ed appropriations committee, like job programs to these all that money, and the potential new Ken's replacement, not the lady who won, Miss Stratton, but his replacement has already said, "Don't count on me to try to fund that stuff."
Oh, wow.
So you may have Representative Duncan out of his seat, but in the long run, kill.
The proverbial cut it off your nose.
Yeah, yeah. So it, it's just a, and so that's just one part of the issue. Um, another part I don't like is that Representative Duncan got a lot of heat, but no one is on the other two Democrats who voted Representative Duncan. They didn't get an opponent, and they still ain't gonna vote for no tax increase, and they still not gonna vote for a lot of things that those who can, they still. So yes, um, how do you see a real substance until 20? Because if Democrats win 5 more seats in the House district, Republican or Democratic. So how do you vote?
And I understand you're dealing with a situation. If I'm district, the battle may be bigger than to stay, or constituents. When you're in community, says yes for little children, we don't want that.
I don't want my taxes going up. I went up downstate in the Chicago public schools
A lot.
So as voted last year's shot, and gonna say, "I'm with you. I'm not gonna send no money up to Chicago. I can't go vote.
I can't do it because I'm gonna lose my job."
It's on, even if you do get some seats, you'd have to get people who are and don't care about
the next
winning or losing. They care about right. That's why if you notice, all the tax increases that go through happen during last, because of people who lost the way they really always wanted to
in the first place. Now that we know it's politics with government, what little guy, a whole lot of other stuff that has nothing to do with you as an individual. What do they do? Hey, this for for us. I need for you to vote this way.
The best thing we talk about is Springfield with X. Me personally, I tell them vote your district, and people in those districts have to be really out there telling their elected official how they want them to vote.
I remember when I was younger, hearing the term town a lot more as far as actually happening. Now I hear the term now, but I only hear them with, like, my goodness, the hook. I hear it with him. I'm getting a little iffy. I hear it a lot, and times even alderman. I know everyone is supposed to have the public, and it doesn't depend on a whole lot. Are the is for people want?
I can't stay house.
To get a lot of community response.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And he tends to run legislation that mirrors the feedback he's gotten from the district. For all of them, I'm sure all of them are doing some things, but you have some members that work their district. That means real active in it, and some who aren't.
And I guess that's with any other job. You know, some people are just going to take it mostly and be more involved than any others. You know, with now, like I said, probably not having a budget for the next 3 years, and to Chicago State University, I think Northeastern Illinois University, was those three were like the top
Western,
three.
Eastern.
So all the directional schools, as I call them.
Oh yeah, they're all in trouble.
They're in trouble. What are we?
Is, well, we're supposed to go back in December, after the elections. So you may be able to get tax increase of those who have been, I would call, obstructionists, have taken the state so deep in the hole that 5% won't get you out. It won't get you out.
And Rauner still won't pass the budget then.
No, because see, the problem is the General Assembly will pass a budget. He's just going to veto it.
Right, he won't sign it.
Then it comes back, and you don't have enough Democrats in the House
to push it through.
Regardless. So even if the speaker picks up 5 seats or gains 3, how do you protect those 3 and the governor on a budget?
You said it was 117 seats.
118.
118 in the House. How many does either party need to have what I'm calling a supermajority?
71.
How many do the Democrats have?
72.
So they have a supermajority.
Yes. They have 71 or 72.
But it's a matter of, because of their districts, some of them still can't vote that way.
The way it's set up right now, it's the member that won't vote for it. I think that they could get, well, no, Jack Franks would lose, but he's not running anyway, so why not vote? He's not running for re-election.
Okay.
The other representative from out in Highwood, up in Lake County, his district is a progressive district. It's not highly progressive, but it's progressive enough where his seat would be safe if he were to vote for overriding the governor's budget. You know, but the problem is, how do you get there? How do you get your number to, or like, how do you get a Democrat, a newly elected Democrat out of Central Illinois
to take the risk?
To take that risk. Now, maybe if they've been in there for 4 terms, a little bit more solid in their district, which will allow them to take more risky votes. So they're called targets. If you're a target, you're not allowed to vote on certain.
Wow. See, this is all new to me, and I'm
It's
sure
a chess
it's new
game
to a lot of people. And we're still trying to get in the game to play checkers. We're not even trying to play chess.
Issue that a lot of everyday working people don't know is that there are enough members in the House to shut everything down if everything they want isn't in the budget.
But There's a but here.
The constituents aren't as aggressive in demanding that want. For some reason, we meaning the people come out when the fire is a five big blaze and say
A
nothing when it
level
was smoke.
5. Right. And that's true because it's astonishing to people with a half of a burn 2 years deep, and we're still fighting this one battle, and we can't seem to get any type to get over the hump within the Democratic Party.
Yep.
And like I said, now we're at a level 5 blaze, but we saw smoke before Rauner got in office.
Yeah. Like some of the union folks downstate voted for Governor Rauner, thinking things gonna be better. And now, if you remember, ask me, you out there working with no contract, a looming state strike. The governor don't want to bargain with you. He want to take away your collective bargaining rights in the first place, and has threatened to bring in people off the street to work in your spot if you go on strike.
A la Ronald Reagan and the air traffic controllers in
Yep.
1980.
Yeah.
Strike bus. Wow. And ask me, member here, I know we fought 3.5 years for our contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I was like, this is insane. I don't understand why this happens every time, that we have to go through all these long, protracted fights and whatever. And then to have someone that you know is a union breaker coming into office and you vote for him, that's insane, for no other appropriate term to me.
So I think for the Springfield budget stuff, you're going to get these piecemeals or these stopgaps over the next
Just enough to get
2
along.
years, just enough to
Keep
it moving
a little bit.
Right. I don't think the $100 million debt in pensions is going to be addressed. You know, even though everybody wants pension reform, I don't see it. I see it being partially taken care of, but I don't see it being fully. I'm not trying to paint a bleak picture,
No, but this is real.
but this is what's really happening. And you got a lot of good people down there fighting this fight. But the issue is with some elected officials in the Chicago area, and then it's with your folks down for a Democratic state senator down in Cairo, because he's in a hard fight.
And Cairo, for those who don't know, is like to Kentucky
And Missouri. Yep. It's 142 miles out of Memphis.
And now I'm here with Cairo. Yes, indeed. That's a fight. That's a fight.
That's where I'm being assigned to go work on that campaign.
When they come back into session in December.
Well, the veto session is the last week in November, the first week in December.
What is the fight?
The other 6 months of the stopgap budget for fiscal year 17.
But not a budget, not a whole budget.
Well, that will give you the second 6 months of the 6 months that they passed July 1st. So that will give you a 17 budget. Sort of looking forward to the next 6 months of fighting over the 18 budget.
If someone were to come to you and say, Frank, I'm interested in running for office, what would you tell that person that they need to have under control before they even consider it? And what would your advice be?
I think any and everybody, if they want to run, should run. But they have to be realistic. Like, where are you gonna get the money from? What's your map? How you gonna map this out to win? Don't, if you just want to run to be running, that's on you. But do you really want to go through that process of the petition challenge? Do you want to go through that process of trying to get an endorsement from somebody who's going to give you some money? What's your walk plan? How you going to knock on doors? Which door? Are the people doors you're gonna knock on registered voters? Are they hardcore voters? Are they soft voters? Are they only presidential year voters? Are they voters who vote only in the mayor's race? Are they voters who hardly ever vote unless there's a presidential race? Or are they the people who only have voted when Barack was on the ballot?
And there's some of those.
So you have to break all that down. So how you gonna pay to get that data?
Wow. So it comes down to not just your determination, but your pockets.
Yeah, like some people say, if you own a house and your house is worth $150,000, are you gonna refund a house for 75? So you can self-fund your campaign? Are you that serious? You know, are you willing to do that? And then the hard part is there's different ways of getting the data, but there's only two ways of getting the accurate data. And one is from the Democratic Party, who's not going to sell it to you because more than likely they're backing the incumbent. And then the other group that has it are the unions. And if none of them have endorsed you, you're not going to get it. So then the data you end up buying may be 60, 70% accurate because who else is going to take the time out to compile all that data?
That's real. Well, before we sign off, I want to ask you something and I want you to tell the people something. What is the most important piece of legislation that you as a lobbyist has helped to get passed?
Wow. My very first bill was $100 million in bonding authority for the Cook County Forest Reserve. And it's great to see like Brookfield Zoo getting all their renovations and Chicago Botanical Gardens got redone. Then maybe the 294 exchange on 57 that they finally built.
They finally built.
No smoking in Illinois indoors with when she was a state rep, Karen Yarbrough.
Who's now the recorder of deeds?
The Cook County Recorder of Deeds. And then there was a bill to stop transmission of STDs inside Cook County Jail that we worked on. Funding to keep Stroger Hospital open when it was about to close it a couple of years ago that people didn't know it was about to close.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
O'Hare, the runways that they're building at O'Hare, when they redid Soldier Field.
So you worked on some massive bills.
Yeah, like the other day, my wife said I should compile a list. I can't remember. You know, they were big back then, but
it's somewhere. It's somewhere.
Oh yeah, I probably don't go through all my emails.
You're probably gonna go through everything. What are you gonna be on Intellectual Radio?
I and my friend Canoe are on Mondays at 3:00, and I can't even pull the name of the show, but it's a show that deals with politics and public policy, and about everything from the national level all the way down to the local. People who vote in only presidential races need to understand, and I know why they only vote in presidential races, because they're touched so much. It's on the commercials, the news media talk about it. So it gets a lot of exposure. But at the end of the day, the aldermen are the ones who make sure your garbage is collected. They're the ones who do the potholes. And the people in the General Assembly decide on laws come out that impact how you breathe, the red light, how long it's red, all this stuff. And for some reason, they can't. So that's what we talk about in the show.
They think the president can fix or affects everything.
Right, but he or she doesn't.
Like, I think in my mind, only 5% actually. See, I knew I was right. Only 5%. Well, starting when? When does your show start?
It started today. Today's first show is at 3:00.
So next Monday, 6:00 Central Standard Time, the Straight No Chaser show. 3:00 Standard Time, Central Standard Time. You're gonna look at Frank. We'll get the show name to you. Well, I appreciate your coming on so much.
Thank you for having me.
Giving us a lot of information that we did not know. And we will definitely be piggybacking off of 3, 4, 5, and 6. What is it? The Monday Night Moguls.
Okay.
On the intellectualradio.com iHeartRadio station with Earl. And that's it for us this evening. So everyone, please remember, Dedicate yourselves to the truth, no matter the cost. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, and I will see you next Monday. Peace and blessings.
Is straight talk with no chaser. It gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.